But here's where perception comes in. Because the war for talent is not a homogeneous event. The key to victory is understanding what front you're in. I mean, if you want to look at it, unfortunately, in the way we have to around the world these days, the front in Afghanistan is very different from the front in Iraq, and you have to tailor your strategy and tactics to where you are. The same is true in our war for talent. The first front in the war for talent occurred at the very same time we had this thing called the dot-com bubble. How many people were recruiting then? That was a special time, wasn't it? Every one of us had 30, 40, 50 open recs. The pace was frenetic. The pressure was intense. And so the definition of victory in this particular front in the war for talent became, let's find the first qualified person with a pulse and make him or her an offer. It was really a war for any talent. A quantitative struggle. And so it lasted until the recession of 2001. At that point, the war for talent morphed. And this is where perception comes in, because we're no longer in a war for any talent. We're no longer in a quantitative struggle. We're in a qualitative struggle. We are in a war for the best talent. Your organizations, I don't care what line of work you're in, whether it's healthcare, financial services, nonprofit, doesn't matter. The difference between success and failure is your ability to recruit the best available talent. There are only two kinds of organizations in a labor shortage market like this: winners and losers. There's no middle ground. Now, what does that mean when I say we're in a war for the best talent? Well, I'd like to suggest that the war for the best talent is composed of two cohorts of the population. The first are rare skill holders. We all know that no matter how many resumes come flying into our applicant tracking systems, it's still tough to find certain kinds of people, right? For example, according to the Information Technology Association of America, between June of 2005 and June of 2006, so the data are a little dated, but I think it's still pertinent. In just that 1 year, June 2005 to June 2006, the U.S. created 1.1 million brand new IT jobs. And 500,000 of them went unfilled. Not because there weren't a lot of IT people looking for jobs, but because the skills that they had weren't the skills that we needed. Or take the hard-hit manufacturing sector. According to the National Association of Manufacturers, 40% of all manufacturing employers say they have, quote, a serious shortage of machinists, skilled trade position. 20% say they have a serious shortage of engineers. And if you recruit in healthcare, and I know a lot of you do, I don't have to tell you what it's like. I mean, for example, according to the American Nursing Association, there are today, at this very moment, 126,000 fully funded nursing positions. There just aren't enough nurses to go around. The same is true with pharmacists, physical therapists, and all kinds of other specialties in healthcare. So when I say we're in a war for the best talent, one cohort that I'm talking about are people who have these hard-to-find skills. But there is another cohort, equally as important. And this applies to any kind of people you recruit. It is the difference between success and failure. And that is the degree to which you can recruit A-level performers. They're hard to find. There aren't a lot of them. Now, you know, this era, the war for talent, got its name from a McKinsey & Company report written way back in 1997. McKinsey charged an obscene amount of money to a bunch of clients to go out and prove what you and I intuitively know, that A-level performers are better than C-level performers. Thank you very much. But they did us a great service because they actually quantified the difference. They went to 200 employers, and they discovered that no matter what metric you use, number of sales closed, customer satisfaction scores, number of products produced without a defect, no matter what metric you use, A-level performers are 50 to 100% more productive than C-level performers. You can actually measure the difference. You can monetize it so that even the CFO can figure it out. Okay? So, when I say we're in a war for the best talent. I'm talking about rare skill holders, and I'm talking about rare performers. But there is a gaping hole in the McKinsey study. Anybody know what it is? Well, between an A-level performer and a C-level performer, there is B-level performer. Okay. And there's a lot of research emerging now that suggests that B-level performers are every bit as good as A-level performers. The only difference is that they work for a different motivation. In fact, many B-level performers are recovering A-level performers. An A-level performer is the best he or she can be in their profession, craft, or trade, and they want everybody to know it. They want the biggest salary, the most attention from the boss, the biggest office, and you need some people like that for your organization to succeed. B-level performers are every bit as good as A-level performers, but they work for what one writer called mental chocolate, the intrinsic satisfaction that comes from doing a job well. And organizations need people like that as well. Okay, so today, when I say that the difference between success and failure in recruiting is how you look at the war for talent, and that we're really in a war for the best talent, I mean that you and I, our challenge is to find the rare skill holders and rare performers that will enable our organizations to succeed even in a very, very tough economic environment. Okay, so how are we doing? Well, let's take a look at a couple data points. Let's take a look at hiring managers. Back in 2004, so the data are a little dated again, Accenture went out and talked to 200 senior executives in the Global 1000, the most senior hiring managers in the world, and asked them, how many of you have the quality talent you need to succeed? What do you think? How many of these CEOs said they had the quality talent they need to succeed? What do you think? 65%. Do I hear 70? Anybody else? Come on. What do you think? 80. Okay, good. Anybody else? Sorry? 45. Anybody want to go lower? 35. 25%. Just 1 in 4. Same year, Spencer Stewart went out and talked to 8,000 A and B level performers. And it asked them, how many of you are in a job where you can do your best work? In other words, they were asking these people, how many of you think the recruiter got it right in terms of person-job fit? Okay? Why are you laughing? Okay, how many of these high performers think they're in a job where they can do their best work? What do you think? 30%, okay? What do you think? 40, okay? Anybody else? 5, 35, 9%. Fewer than 1 out of 10. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You know, hiring managers are always whining about recruiters, and it's at least, in some respects, the individual's responsibility to make sure he or she gets into the right position. So let's take a look at ourselves. Same year, Recruiting Roundtable goes out and talks to the recruiters, us, 47 organizations that year hired 27,000 people. And it said, we're going to set the bar real low. How many of you think that just 1 out of 5, 20% of the people you recruited are A and B level performers? What do you think? 80. Okay? I like that vote of confidence. That's right. The heck with those hiring managers. What do they know anyway? What do you think? Anybody else? 75. 50. You ready? 0. Not a single one. Not a single one.